What is the scariest / creepiest thing you have seen / heard? I was on vacation in Ithaca with my boyfriend at the time. We had literally, I'm talking 10 minutes, just gotten into town and stopped at a suspension bridge near Cornell's campus. I'm terrified of heights so, my boyfriend was coaxing me step by step over the bridge. It was gorgeous and we stopped at the middle to take a picture. On the side we had come from there was a parking lot with steps leading to the bottom of the gorge, but on the far side there were hiking paths with no barrier. A woman walked past us and offered to take a picture for us. We declined and she smiled and walked quickly to the far side of the bridge where she smoothly jumped off into the gorge. There was not a second of hesitation, it was almost like she expected the path to keep going. The sound of a person hitting the ground from a jump like that sticks with you. A group of friends was staying at this remote cabin that one of my friend's cousins owned. There were no roads leading to the cabin, and it was a good 3/4 day hike from where you parked the cars. I couldn't go at the same time as everyone else due to work obligations, so I decided to head up the same day but later. It would mean I would have to camp for a night by myself though. The latter part of the trail is too dangerous to be taken at night, especially by someone who doesn't know it. I didn't care, I was kind of looking forward to it as I've never camped alone before. So I was in the middle of these woods when the sun went down. I got my camp set up in this small clearing, probably 40 feet across. Get my campfire going and pitch my small, one-person tent. Do all that camping stuff like cooking hot dogs on a stick over the fire and s'mores. I probably stay up for a good 2 or 3 hours after dark. It was mid-autumn so the days were somewhat short. The entire time I thought I heard shit moving in the woods on the edge of the clearing. I didn't think anything of it at first cause the woods are full of animals, but as the night went on I realized that whatever it was just circling the clearing over and over. Once I started paying attention it made 4 or 5 laps around before I decided to get up and investigate. The noise stopped as soon as I stooped up and I thought I heard some sounded going away through the woods. I just shrugged it off thinking it was some fox that was curious that got scared when I stood up. I decide it's time to sleep, douse the fire and climb into my tent. I start to doze off and stay in that half asleep half awake state for a while. I normally hear weird shit when I'm in this state, so I don't think much of it when I hear a voice. Something wakes me all the way up though and I realize the voice is real and right outside my tent. It's just above a whisper and I'm not sure if it was another language or if they were just speaking English in such a way that I couldn't understand. I lay there for some time, I don't know how long, listening and waiting for something to happen. There is just enough moonlight to light up the walls of the tent, so I can see when a hand presses into the wall of my tent down near my foot. This freaks me out and I sit up quickly. Whoever was outside of the tent tore ass out of there. Like running full sprint through the woods. I get out of the tent and shine my flashlight around and see nothing. I was expecting there to be a bloody handprint on the tent, but no. Didn't sleep that night, packed up camp at first light that morning and booked it to the cabin.
I was about 15 minutes from finishing the night shift at work when there was a massive crash on one of the windows in the office, so I get up and go to check it out. Someone has thrown quite a sizable rock through one of the windows on the front of the building. This is made especially weird because I'm working in the industrial district at 11:30 at night with none of the other businesses open. I go back to my desk, put a quick call through to security to let them know and decide to head home. As I'm leaving the building I'm freaking myself out about it more and more and end up running to my car, getting in and taking off. I'm almost home and I've started to calm down a bit when I realized that I didn't unlock my car when I got in. It had been unlocked the whole time. I do a quick check with my hand in the back seat for any possible murderers that might be hanging around there, but there's nothing there. Fast forward 30 minutes, I've called a friend of mine who says he is out drinking, so I decide I'm going to join him. I jump on my bicycle and start riding over. I'm doodling along the road on my bike. It's a nice night and I'm in no big rush, just enjoying the moonlight when I hear someone riding behind me. I straighten up and stick to one side of the road. He passes me really slowly and, when he is right beside me, he shoots me a smile I can describe as purely fucking insane. I kind of flinch and am taken aback as he rides on. That's when I realize he is riding my mom's bike. Needless to say, I sprint the fuck home. When I get there, sure enough her bike is missing and one of my car's doors is open. The back left one. I was driving, and had no need to open that door. Well, I have another story with an animal, this time including my dog. My house has generally made a lot of disturbing noises, and I've felt like my house is haunted in the sense that someone else lives here, but I just don't know who. This actually happened 5 hours ago during a storm. It's still raining while I was alone at home. Well, during the storm, I heard unsettling sounds. One was when I was about to go to the bathroom, I heard something fall. It sounded like a water bottle hitting the floor a few meters away from me, but I didn't know where the sound originated from. I was a little panicked but managed to stay calm. The second, more unnerving event happened a short while later. So I am sitting on my bed doing some work while my dog is sitting a few meters in front of me by the stairs, which is right outside of my door and is open. From his view, he can see the entire main floor and the stairs, and if he looks back, me, well, I hear something and look at him. I can see he is staring at something on the stairs. He barks quickly and keeps staring at something. A few seconds later his head starts to move slowly. His head, still focused in one something, starts to move counterclockwise and a little upwards. As he does so, he gets up and starts to turn his head even more, still slowly. As he is turning, I realized he has completed a full 180-degree turn and is now looking at me. From slowly looking at something come up the stairs, he now sees this invisible figure on me. At this moment, I am confused and scared and decide to call my cousin. Well, anyways, fast forward a few hours and my parents come home. The strange thing is, when they return, the garage door is open. Not the garage itself, but the door that I must open to get into the garage. Well, this is my Scar story and just happened fairly recently. I am kind of spooked at the moment, hopefully my dog was just playing. My parents bought their first house back in 1972. It was a fixer-upper, but they decided to move in right away and fix things as time money permitted. Within a few days of moving in, the new neighbors came over to introduce themselves. They also let my parents know that the previous owners had moved out after a nasty divorce. They had lost their second baby from SIDS, and their relationship went downhill from there. My parents were horrified, more so because they were newly pregnant and couldn't imagine going through such a thing. They eventually pretty much forgot all about it. Life went on. They were in love with their new life and their new house. In preparation for the baby, they decided to wallpaper the nursery. Now, my dad told my mom there was no need in wallpapering the inside of the closet, but she insisted. She was kneeling down, scraping off old paint inside of the closet when her eyes fell upon something that made her blood turn to ice. Written in crayon, at about eye level for a kindergartner, in childish scrawl was, "I killed the baby." We work with some pretty scary stuff doing hydrometallurgy and other metallurgical work. On a couple of occasions we found old jars of dried out picric acid, which becomes highly explosive, more so than TNT, when left around to dry out for too long. If some has dried in the threads of the jar and then the jar is opened, the shock can be enough to cause an explosion. We pretty routinely work with HF, which isn't terrible to work with other than HF exposure does fucked up stuff to your bones. A friend of mine got some very diluted HF on his arm and decided to call poison control just to get some advice. They didn't really believe that we would have access to it and thought he was prank calling them. We work with potassium cyanide all the time for gold extractions, and a few undergrads have accidentally synthesized hydrogen cyanide and some other nasty derivatives. It really isn't a problem if handled properly, but often they'll do it without knowing it, and then leave the stuff sitting around or dump it in the garbage. Never believe that just because somebody has made it to graduate studies, that they aren't still fucking idiots. About a year ago I was climbing a tree in my front yard at around 4:30 a.m. I had walked a lady friend to her car and was killing time until I got the "I'm home" text, and the weather was nice for tree climbing, so I just did it. This particular night my neighbors didn't lock their gate like they normally do, leaving easy access to their tool shed, lawnmower, etc. I guess the guy forgot. It happens, but it was definitely noticeable. Large gate, right next to the road, expensive old man tools. So as I observed the gate from my lofty perch and considered all of the reasons it would be open, I noticed a car coming down my street very slowly, eventually coming to a halt right in front of my neighbor's driveway. I looked into the car and saw two young men pointing and looking intently around his yard. Sketchy shit during daylight, much more so at night. After a minute or so of being too nervous to do anything at all, I realized I was leaning pretty heavy on some branches, exposing myself more than when these two had just driven up. That was when it happened. The guy in the passenger seat noticed me first. He did a panicky sort of double take when he first saw me, followed by what I generally assumed to be the words, "Oh shit," and rapidly punching the driver in the arm. Attempting to look menacing, I did the only thing I could think of, which was hold my arms up in a claw-like pose, like a T-Rex. When the driver saw me, he did the same panicky double take before slamming the gas and hauling ass out of Dodge. I like to think I was the creepiest, scariest thing those two ever saw.